Yeah. Do we pass around a notebook for them to sign?
Putting it up on there and then not signing.
One on small.
Okay.
Looking online, like. I had it. When you're age.
Are we at 5:30?
Boy.
Be the law director's job, the official timekeeper too.
Okay, we'll convene the meeting of the Gates Mills Village Council at 5:30 here on Tuesday night. Thank you, Mike, for making the arrangements. Thank you, Janet and team for the hospitality of the old council chambers. This puts us shoulder next to shoulder. And way we should try to work closely together. Oh, thank you, Michael, for the camera. I should make sure I keep looking at that. The good news is we might not need microphones today, so rather than put your mic on, take your mic off, we can just regulate that ourselves. It's a beautiful day in Gates Mills. For those of you that are watching us that are back from South Carolina, Florida, Arizona, California, or anywhere else, we brought you the best weather that we can possibly give you. This is 70 degrees, sunny, lightly breeze. The flowers are all out. Trees are budding. Great day to be in Gates Mills. Clerk, can we have the roll call, please? Beth?
Eton.
Here.
Broom.
Here.
Deacon.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Steinbrink.
Here.
Could someone make a motion to please excuse council members Turner and Welsh?
So moved.
Second.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is the minutes of the council meeting on March 19th, which were sent to you in advance. Janet or Beth, were there any comments sent to you in advance?
I'm not aware of any.
Any comments from any council members present?
For me.
Now, would appreciate a motion to approve the minutes. So moved.
Second.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Next item is pay ordinance 1284 for $539,616. I don't believe we received any questions in advance, but happy to take any questions now. Everything was pretty typical. We did distribute to the Conservancy, right? The
Yes, 57,000.
57,000. We normally do that every 6 months. We've sped it up to essentially give them the money that we receive as we receive it. So they received that amount of money in March. It would normally have probably gotten that in June.
Yep.
So that was a little larger disbursement than in the past. Going to have a motion then to approve the pay ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Eton.
Yes.
Broom.
Yes.
Deacon.
Yes.
Press.
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor's report. We have a number of things today, so let me click down a few. First of all, thank you to all of those organizations, families, volunteers, and of course our staff here who put on a wonderful Easter egg morning hunt. We had hundreds of kids, hundreds of prizes, parents and grandparents. Obviously, we focus this on residents and we don't control who comes and doesn't come. It seems like it's getting a little bit bigger every year. So either we're getting more grandparents with kids or we're getting some neighbors. But in any event, it worked out beautifully. The weather was rainy, but it stopped at around 10 o'clock and it started again around 1 o'clock or something. And so it was able to be done outside. It was a wonderful event. And again, that's put on by the village at our cost as one of our activities. It was great to see so many young families and kids and grandkids down. So thank you to all those that participated, including some volunteers from the high schools and others that come and volunteer for the day to get some service hours as well as do something good. Number two, the art show preparation has been going on for several weeks. Mike, Tom, and others have been putting together all the props and the walls. I understand, if I have the numbers right, we have something like 125 entries. We had over 300 submissions. So there was a pre-screening that close to 100 and some individuals who contributed work did not qualify for the show. It does show how interesting the show is and how much in demand it is. If we ever wonder, is that a good thing that we do? Does anybody come? Do the artists care? We've got 350 some artists of all kinds of different disciplines contributing to the show. Prizes are close to $4,000, I believe, this year for the winning prizes. We have 3 professional judges that we hire. Again, this is put on by the village as one of our summer activities, spring activities. Interestingly, to my right on the easel is a photograph that was taken of the Village Hall by Polly Marabito just a few weeks ago. And she's donated that to the village. She is an amateur photographer. She wanted to participate in the show. She brought her submission in. It didn't make the final cut, but she was proud that she joined it. I called her this morning and thanked her for the wonderful contribution. We'll hang that somewhere appropriate. I thanked her for the daffodils in particular. I said, it looks like you just did this last night. And she said, well, it was about 10 days ago. It's been a spring that's been pretty accommodating. So it's just pleased, you know, to among all the stuff that we have to do that's business-like, to see some of these fun activities for families and residents. Tennis pickleball update. Good news there, of course. We have signed both purchase orders for the tennis court redo as well as for the nets. The nets have been paid for and should be near on a truck to be delivered. The tennis court repair, repaving, restriping is going to be done, I think, in May. I don't have an exact date. That's ready to go. You'll see later in the ordinances or in the resolutions tonight, we are using money from the Purcell Fund to make up the difference, and the general fund as well. We'll go through those numbers a little bit later. So that won't cost us any more than what we had planned for this year, even though the costs were a little bit higher than we had planned. Encore update and presentation. Jerry, I know you just walked in. Would you be willing to give us a minute on?
Just a minute?
Well,
Sure. Yeah, thanks, guys.
we'll give you a few.
Thanks. I'd like to introduce Bill Lavinia, who longtime Gatesville resident and is just the retiring president of the Encore Board of Trustees. And he is now the liaison between the Encore Group and the village. And so he's Kristen Castro is also a Gates Mills resident, who is the marketing manager for the effort. So I'll give you a little background as how I got involved in this. It was my takeaway from the comprehensive plan that there were three big takeaways. One is that community pride, stewardship for the valley, for the Spiel River Valley, and the importance of education seemed to me to be the compelling summary of the census of the village. And so I accidentally stumbled across the fact that there's this gem, I mean, a true gem, artistic gem, that's been going on at Gilmore, which was the reason I connected in terms of education, called Encore, which is essentially a summer school for prodigies and wannabe prodigies from all over the world to come for a month of training with selected, very accomplished professional musicians. This year they'll have 75, 76 students from all over the world. I think they had 210 applications, and they check them out and they say, okay, who's really up to speed, because this is the big time. And so they invite them for this summer school for a month, and then they bring in about 30 professionals. Some come in for a weekend, some come in for the whole period. And they run master classes for these students. And out of this also comes a whole series of performances. And I'm going to ask Kristen to stand up and give you kind of an overview of the 50 or so performances that will happen in everywhere from downtown Gates Mills to Gilmore to Northeast Ohio. It's still evolving, but the interesting thing about this is, I think quite exciting, is that every one of these performances is going to be the Encore Gates Mills Music and Idea Festival. So we're going to be branded all over Northeast Ohio. And in fact, you could argue that if your child's a prodigy in Korea, they're going to know Gates Mills because of this connection. So it's a natural way of creating additional community pride. And it's going along quite well, although frankly, we're feeling our way to do this right. And we don't know exactly the balance points, but I'm very excited. I hope, and everyone in the community that I've spoken with also seems to be quite supportive. So I hope this comes off as well as we expected. Kristen, you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
Before you start, let me just, so we'll give you more than a minute, of course, but we do try to keep moving on these things.
Sure.
So when you go through them all, please don't list all 50. I'm particularly interested in those that are near and dear to our location. We appreciate that you're going all over the county and all over Northeast Ohio, and that's super. We're happy to have our brand name on there. Jerry and Bill, thank you very much for bringing this to us, 6 months ago, whenever, and for introducing your board and some of your leadership to us. Everybody is excited about this. I guess what I'd like to have you focus on, if you can, Kristen, is what will we be doing kind of in Gates Mills and Hunting Valley and Pepper and nearby that either our residents or our neighbors can go and see.
Sure.
So,
Yes.
thank you.
So just to add on, thanks, Jerry, to what Jerry said, the 40 of those performances, really 40 of them are really like master classes. So they are happening at Gilmore Academy, and the students are there and they're learning from faculty members that have come from all over the world. And some of them are like about musicality and learning more about their instruments and whether it's quartet or whatever their focus is. But a lot of it is about how to be a professional artist, like how to protect your vision and how to communicate your vision to others and how to show your passion to grow your art form in a more like cultural way. So, the I call them kids, but they're really 16 to 23 years old. And then so those are the things that are happening at Gilmore. And then there are 7 other performances that are happening around Northeast Ohio. So there's one that's at night in the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. There's one that's at the Cleveland Natural History Museum. There's one at Oberlin. There's one at Akron Public Library. And then the final Camerata finale, it will be on the Village Green in Gates Mills. And so that will be all the students, all the faculty. And so that's when they're really going to show their stuff. That performance is entirely free to everyone. We've asked everyone to RSVP on the website. But then also the Akron Library is also entirely free, but the other performances are really affordable compared to what that level of classical music usually costs.
Mention the master classes are open.
Oh, yes. So the 40 master classes at Gilmore Academy are entirely open to the public. So if you know someone who's a musician, or a young musician who wants to sit in and see what something like this might be like, or if you're interested in just like taking a peek, those are all open too. And then we've also so this is the 9th season. So, Jinju Cho is the artistic director and founder of Encore Chamber Music Institute. She is an associate professor of violin at now Northwestern University. She's just left from McGill and is starting in Northwestern in the fall. And she spends, I don't really know how she fits it all in, but she spends time teaching and traveling all over the world performing and also administrating the Encore Institute.
And then aside, let me just say, Jinju is truly a phenomenon, and she's probably one of the top 100 violinists. Lucky to have her.
So if you look at her, we have our Encore social media that we're trying to build up. But if you look at Jinju's social media, she has legions of fans all over the world. So to the mayor's request, there are a number of specific performances that we have scheduled that are mostly performers who are alumni of Encore, who are in the Cleveland area. And some of them are happening during the 3 weeks of the festival, which is June 2nd to 24th. But a few of them are outside of that, really to try to seed excitement and help get the word out to the community and encourage people to check out the classes and the performances. So the first one is the Improvement Society's meeting on April 24th at Punk Club. And then on June 6th, we're going to have a little performance for the Nature Camp kids. That's like at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. And of course, the community, everyone's invited to that. June 10th, there's going to be an afternoon tea for the community club at SARS, and then another performance that's at 3, and then another performance at 5. And then on when the Garden Club has their tour, there'll be a performance at their dinner, and then also at the end of the tour at the clubhouse there on June 21st. And then so 20th is the dinner, 21st is the, and then on the 23rd, June 23rd at 3 o'clock is the finale on the Village Green. And so I think that is there anything else that I can offer? I know you have a lot of business to cover.
That's a super summary. Thank you. When you get all those, Gene and I will talk tomorrow, get all those on the website calendar, so people that look for activities can see those things. And actually some are free, some are modest cost, some are Garden Club or Improvement Society or kind of an invitation, but that's pretty loose too. It'd be great to have those publicized that way. Thank you, Jerry, for reaching out to every village organization to make sure that everybody was considered.
Very lucky. We probably will have the majority, if not all, the community organizations taking part in one aspect or another of this thing. And I think it's terrific, and they've all been quite supportive. I would one more comment. We're hoping to have a special surprise in the 4th of July parade. Bill can come through for us. We're going to try. We'll see. This will be a shocker. This will be a shocker.
Well, Clark's got an organizing meeting, I think, this weekend. So it's a Zoom call too. So I'll send you the invite. If you think it's far enough along, Bill, that you want to at least present as an idea, Clark Langbeck runs our parade, and he know about that ahead of time.
Be happy to do that.
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for letting us come tonight and give you a little input into what Encore is about.
Yeah.
It's truly a gym in Greater Cleveland.
Before you go, let me make sure the council has any questions or ideas. Scott?
So I have one question. So the difference in the size and the scope for the finale, the 23rd versus the other performances, because I want to tell people that it's going to be bigger, because I don't want them to think that they've seen it already.
Right.
So give me
So the one on the 23rd is 74 students and the faculty. And the Improvement Society one and the one at SARS, those are probably like quartets.
Okay. So that's what I want to make sure.
Each one is
tell people
different.
Yeah, one will be a little bit different. There might be, I mean, I know at SARS, there are 2 performances and it'll be the same quartet. So there'll be 3 o'clock like tea, and then 5 o'clock more for other folks that might after work be able to come over. But it might be different each time. And if you go to encorechambermusic.org and you see some of the bigger performances that are around Northeast Ohio, there's a pretty eclectic mix of music. It's not all chamber music as traditional chamber music. There's Roma jazz. It's all kind of inspired by Planet Earth this year, which so it's really about the relationship between music and artists, and so there are also some people we brought in to speak about it, like the science director at the Natural History Museum will give a little introduction and what that concept means to the museum, and then so those are a little more robust from the ideas perspective.
The concerts that are around the county are really eclectic and different. But the student concerts are great. And the one concert we're having here is our big grand finale. But at Gilmore that weekend, there are several concerts that all the students perform. Quite frankly, the students are in my opinion, almost more entertaining than people have already accomplished things. No, it's, if you like music, you'll like this. I don't like music, don't.
Thank you all. Appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you for putting it together. We look forward to working with you on this. Thank you, Bill. Thank you,
I
Chris.
just want to say that Jerry's done a great job
Yes.
at bringing this to a head.
Thank you,
They've done
Jerry.
the lion's share of the work on it.
I thought there wasn't anybody in Gates Mills that didn't know Jerry, but now I know that there were a few. He now has them all covered. Okay,
Thank you for having this.
thank you.
Yep.
Mayfield Schools update. I don't have much of an update for you. We had talked about inviting the superintendent and the treasurer to come and talk about the state of the schools in April or May, and April is already clicking through here. So I'm a little bit behind on that, and then having them come a second time, which they agreed to do, if the board decides to have a levy and to talk specifically about money and the levy and the purpose, the need, et cetera. So those still are in our plans. The Mayfield Schools Liaison Committee did have a meeting on Friday. I was not there. I don't know, David, if you have any comments you care to share.
There'll
or-
be a summary circulated in due course,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, thank you.
nothing particularly noteworthy.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, item 4D is the bike markings on Gates Mills Boulevard. We have discussed this a couple times and have narrowed down our options to two, as reported in the minutes last meeting. One is to stay with what we have, which is do nothing. And two is to prepare bike markings, signs and paint on the roads. We have a cost for that, by the way. We had previously talked about and considered and rejected. Hello, hi Lane, didn't see you walk in. And the lanes with the pedestrian and the bike and the jogger, and the car traffic all going in different directions, left side, right side, et cetera. That was all considered and dismissed. And so we came down to, can we do it as simple as some bike markings with sharrows on the road and signs every 200 and some odd feet? We asked Chris to put together that estimate for us. I would like to go to the Gates Mills residents on Gates Mills Boulevard and advise them inform them on what council would like to do, subject to their input. We've not done that because I don't want to present 3 or 4 different choices that nothing happens. So I need your input today, if you are so inclined. Chris has, well, why don't I let you chat for a minute about the cost and the markings and how that would look.
Sure. I included,
Would you mind standing because we have the camera? Chris, thank you.
I included an anticipated cost in our application to the county for being able to recover material costs. We got a quote from the contractor for the sharrows and all the signing. It was $15,808, of which about half of would be reimbursed by the county for material costs. We put the plan together, submitted it to the contractor, he's quoted it based on the exact plan. That would be for sharrows every 225 feet, spacing a little bit off, not have them right in front of drive aprons or intersections, and then signs every other sharrow. So signs would be every 450 feet or so. That would be for sharrows, which indicate that the lane is shared with bicyclists. The sharrows would be about 11 feet in from the curb, which is the standard dimension. And it just sets the road up to advise everybody that it's not only for cars, but for bicyclists as well.
Is there a sense that if you did this, that one of the benefits would be that auto drivers would look and say, geez, this is a 1-lane road, even though there's a sign that says this is a 1-lane road, and adhere more towards
Yeah,
that?
generally you're gonna
paint
put people
and
aren't gonna
striping?
drive on top of the sharrows. I mean, it operates kind of like a bike lane psychologically. So I think you'll have them scooting more to the inside and leaving that extra room. So yeah, I believe so.
When you got to the end of the horseshoe, where it's wide enough to be 2 lanes, past Charlie, would we continue to have 1 lane and a sharrow lane?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so that would not be marked 2 lanes for traffic?
No, it would not.
Okay. David,
So on the narrow part of Gates Mills Boulevard, west of Chartley, the sharrows will be more than across the middle of the road, right? They'll be almost exactly in the middle of the road. It's 20 feet
About
wide.
in the middle, yeah.
And I think that will be confusing to some drivers. I don't know. I mean, it seems odd to me. I mean, whenever I see a Sharrow, I expect them to be a little bit over, clearly to the right-hand side of the road. These you're saying would be in the center.
Yeah, they would essentially be in the center because it's
Yeah,
a one-lane road.
yeah.
The ones in Pepper Pike are over to the right.
They are.
They are, but that's two-lane road, not one lane.
So they have more than 20 feet for the width of the
Yeah.
road. We don't.
We're talking just a couple feet different
Yes,
Yeah.
between us and.
Yeah, I don't think there will be any problem to move them closer to the curb line.
I think that will be sensible if we do it, if we take this option. That will be sensible.
We can do that. We can move them closer.
Yeah.
Lori,
So, do people walking tend to use those lanes as well, or is that
No,
considered
it's not gonna be
dangerous?
marked like a bike lane,
It
so it
won't be
won't have
marked.
like a white line that'll be going, it'll just be every 225 feet, there'll be that. It looks like a bicyclist with two arrows on the front, showing that the lane is shared with bicyclists and cars.
Okay,
It's not meant to designate
an area that the
pedestrian
car
lane or
can't
anything
go,
like that.
right, a pedestrian, okay, thank you.
if council's inclined, and I'm not suggesting you are yet, I would think the next step for us would be to send a document out to the residents of Gates Mills Boulevard, inform them on the deliberations that we had, what council's preliminary conclusion is, invite them to comment, perhaps to a town hall or an open meeting or something like that, so that they're not surprised one day they wake up and all of a sudden people are painting the road. I think it'd be smart to inform them in advance.
And you would do this if we decided that doing nothing was the right answer?
Well, if you decide nothing is the right answer, it's over. If you decide that you want to, if you want to go forward with the Sharrows, a little closer, et cetera, I think we should inform
Absolutely.
the residents what the council's.
We started out with something much more elaborate in mind. Now that we're down to the two options we're looking at, I mean, why would we do it on Gates Mills Boulevard rather than River Road or County Line? I mean, how is it any different? We share with bikes on many roads.
True.
And I guess along those lines, my question would be is if there is a bicyclist on Gates Mills Boulevard, are they going to be under the impression that they're going to be riding down the middle of the road, backing traffic all the way up behind them versus moving off to the side to allow cars to pass? If it's in the middle of the road.
Yeah, that was what I was wondering is what's the implication of the Sharrow? Like, what does it mean?
It
Because typically
designates
you
that-
share the
It just
road anyway.
designates that the road is shared between cars and bicyclists.
So is it just an alert?
drivers,
Yeah.
the motorists. That's it. Just
Alert the
Every road
motorist?
shared by cyclists and motorists, every road. in the
Right.
village.
Right,
Let's mark them all.
so it's an alert.
When I think what's in Mayfield and Pepper Pike, it's that those on bicycles can use the entire lane. They can ride basically two abreast in that entire lane. That's what that sharing
Right.
means, because then you've got the other lane
Right,
to
because
pass
of the
around.
lane, right.
Can it be put closer to the curb?
Yes, I think
City
we
could.
we can move it closer to the curb so that it's maybe more like 6 feet off the curb as opposed to 11.
Then the cyclists might
Wouldn't be in the middle of the road,
Wouldn't
right?
Right,
in the
and
middle
they're
of the
gonna,
road,
right,
which
they're
would
gonna ride
be
over the sheriff,
concerning.
which would put them closer to the
safety
curb.
wise.
We still have to advise the cyclist should ride single file.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be added to the signs as well. That would go in as marking it as,
My sense is there's more reservation to not do anything than there is to do something.
I'd say not do it. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in the don't category.
My proposition here is that the thing about the comprehensive plan was that people didn't want change unless there was a clear reason to do so. And the clear reason to do so should affect most of the villagers in some way. And this doesn't do that. So I'm against it for those reasons too.
I think it just might cause more confusion
Mhm.
up there. And I mean, my observations, people walking will generally walk in the median, sometimes they walk on the road.
Depending on the weather, yeah.
Right.
If we walk on the road, Kelly and I, we do it from Charlie to Gates Mills Boulevard on the opposite side. As the traffic is approaching us.
Right,
And then when they get close, we get on the grass.
right.
Absolutely.
And
I've heard from two residents only on this, that they're opposed to this. And my my hunch tells me that if you went and talked to the residents, half would be for it and half would be against it. I don't mind.
I'm going to sense
Be
that
shocked if there was
we're,
consensus.
we don't need a vote. I think I have sense that council doesn't want to go forward with this.
Certainly might be.
Or should we ask for a vote? Lori, do you have a view the other way?
Yeah, I'm just not sure that it makes sense if you're really just sharing the road, which you're supposed to do anyway. And to notify people on that particular road, why that road.
That's kind of along the lines of the comment I wanted to make, that having the sharrows doesn't change what the bicyclist can do. Not having the sharrow doesn't change what the bicyclist would do. Either case, they can ride down the middle of the road.
If they want.
If they, it's not gonna change, and I think them are not.
And the original intent in all this was to eliminate some of the confusion by adding a dedicated bike lane off
Right.
the curb
Right.
that would,
Which we
you know,
can't.
more delineate, this is a
Right.
one lane road, and now that that's not feasible or a possibility, complicates things a little bit.
Okay, I think we'll end the conversation on this and we'll draft up some minutes that essentially says council discussed this and has decided to not go forward with the bike markings on Gates Mills Boulevard. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. That concludes, well, I have one other thing on the mayor's report, and I'm probably going to be a little early on this, but we have a number of instances of people that are violating our ordinances that have come to light with the spring, cutting down trees, putting up fences backwards, inadvertently tearing down a garage. And there's more. If I ask Dave to give me the list of what he does, you know, on the average day, half of it is getting a hold of people that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And we have ordinances that essentially have some teeth to them. As a village over the years, we've worked with people to try to have them fix what they didn't do correctly. Maybe it's the spring and everybody's out doing stuff, but they're not doing it according to the rules and regulations. So I'm getting to the view that come this month, maybe in the pink sheet, and maybe it's just on the website, we're going to republish our rules that exist on fences, tree cutting, buildings, additions, other things that you would think people would look and say, is there a rule that I should follow or ask permission for? And make sure people know that, first of all, that they're out there. Some may just say, I didn't know that. And that's not a good excuse, but it's understandable. And then the month after that, we're going to start enforcing the ordinances with penalties. Because we spend a lot of time and money fixing things that, or having people redo things that they should have known better. And for whatever reason, they just chose to do it their way. So, you know, we've never been the heavy. We don't want to be the heavy, but at the same time, we've got rules and regulations that councils prior to you and this council has passed, and we want to follow those. So that's come up over the last week or two, and in a couple of situations, you've council's seen one or two of those, and I just want you to be apprised of what we're going to do on the executive branch here, so that we are starting to put a little more teeth behind the ordinances. Okay.
So question on that, are you gonna just reprint the ordinance? Will people understand that? No, Dave shaking.
No,
his head
I think to the mayor's point, I think if I could do something in the pink sheet, very simple.
An
language,
article.
Very simple language. You know,
Okay,
the tree ordinance is this, we have a tree ordinance that alerts and there is one. There's things you can do without, i.e. maintenance, there's things you absolutely need a permit. And I think short, simple, hopefully it keeps it in people's mind. Because if you print the language, they're not.
yeah, they'll kind of, there's over.
There's always obviously exceptions and this and that, and then the
Right.
penalty phase of it. So I think that's some very brief. just
So
high
plain
level
English
guide.
version, so to speak, with references on the bottom to say, if you
Okay.
have a question on the ordinance,
Please call.
Please call.
Always ask.
And then I saw you had on the agenda for tomorrow for the historic committee,
Yes,
that same topic.
yes.
And maybe not the next issue, but the issue, not to, overwhelm people. Maybe we talk about the historic district as
Right,
well, and
right.
because the rules are a little different.
Good point. Sure.
So that might be helpful as
Yep,
well.
yep. I
Okay.
agree. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Item 5, areas of strategic importance. I haven't made as much progress on this as I had hoped, to be blunt and to be honest with you. We've just been doing a lot of other things that are on the report and otherwise. And so I need to kind of redouble my efforts on this. I have talked to an individual who I would like to co-chair or vice chair the environmental committee with me. That individual's lived here for quite a while, has significant amount of knowledge of the environment, has been active in a number of ways on that. The broadband committee and the broadband area, I'd like to suggest that Lori and gentleman, Rick Heimer, who I've mentioned to some of you. Rick was a former partner, a retired partner of mine at Ernst & Young Consulting and Capgemini Consulting. Ran the Oracle practice across the country, ran most of the IT practice across the country. He lives here now with his wife and is interested in participating in the broadband community. I think what I'd like to do is see if Lori and Rick can meet directly with Reed, meet directly with Hunting Valley and other municipalities, work directly with Ohio Gig, and come back to the committee with conclusions and recommendations. It's frankly difficult to try to get 4 or 5 people's schedules lined up to be working as a committee. I need to kind of make sure we can get some of this stuff going forward. That's the same thing with the environmental piece. There's almost too many pieces to get a committee together just on scheduling. So I would like to go forward on broadband with Lori and Rick. Maybe there's one other individual that could again do
Steve, could I be in on that?
And-
I would like to. I've been looking at this
the broadband one.
and if I may,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I see Kirtland. So they went out for RFPs and they came back and they authorized the mayor in Kirtland in December to negotiate with Ohio Gig.
You're right. Kirtland Hills. It was Kirtland Hills.
Oh, no, Kirtland.
Kirtland too.
City of Kirtland too.
And
Right.
Kirtland
I
Hills.
talked to the Kirtland
Right.
Law Director today.
Yeah,
They don't have a deal yet. They're working on it. And I think this is something that we can get together, I think pretty quickly.
I've got kind of a calendar, like Steve had asked for a kind of a budget timeline. I've got that, and Ohio Gig called me
Good.
and filled me in on some of what's been going on,
I think it's time
including
with Kirtland Hills.
Kirtland Hills, in December, right? And they're coming through.
Right.
Basically, they're coming through.
Coming through.
Is there anybody in the village who actually works in this area that might be a sensible member to have on the committee that actually, understands about fiber and what have you?
Well, the
And if so, how
EMI
would you find them?
The EMI person,
Yeah.
if they've broadly been working on IT, I think that would be helpful. And we've got a consultant, who's quite good. And
So
quite knowledgeable.
if you guys do, the 3 of you,
If you know someone.
I don't know, well,
Lori, Rick and Scott do the legwork, go back to the committee and say,
all I
here's,
remember is we had a great kerfluffle around Gates Mills years ago about wells, oil wells in the village. And nobody ever thought to ask, we had a half a dozen people from the oil industry living in the village at that time. None of them were invited to participate or even knew it was going on.
So if we know someone, I think that's helpful. I will say that, and I have it in my sort of little plan here, at key points, I would absolutely expect to ask for feedback from anybody who wants to get it. Reed Consulting will have a draft of an RFP actually hopefully tomorrow. So anyone who wants to look at it, who wants to provide comments, and certainly as we go down the path that you know, that is welcome. I would expect you to look at it and provide some comments. We've been
Happy to.
interested in it and.
Been in and out of this thing over the past few years.
Right, so, you know, we would get comments, but work with a small committee so we can hopefully, because they're coming, to Scott's point, they're coming. Ohio Gig's coming through East Mills, so we don't want to miss that if, in fact, if they are the right vendor.
They're probably targeting Moreland Hills as well, because their original target
They are.
communities were Moreland Hills, Hunting Valley, and
Right,
Gates Mills.
Contiguous.
And Kirtland, I mean, their resolution, they received proposals from 3 vendors. They had a information technology consultant they hired, scored the proposals. Ohio Gig was the winner. And so they authorized the mayor to negotiate with Ohio Gig and
that's kind of the same,
Right.
that's what I would expect would be our kind of approach.
and if we look at the agreement with Hunting Valley, I mean, the only cost is for the Hunting Valley municipal buildings and the gray barn.
It's fairly low,
And it's fairly low and it at least
yeah,
I'm not an expert on it, but it looks like that's because they're putting in commercial grade, high speed to those 2 locations and they don't want them to, resell any of their bandwidth. So,
And in the Hunting Valley proposal, Ohio Gig is taking all the subscription risk.
right.
right.
The village is a bystander in effect.
Yes, they are not, and they're not requiring a specific price.
No underwriting, nothing of that sort.
Exactly.
Nor are they requiring exclusivity.
No,
No.
The biggest issue, I think,
No
that we need to
exclusivity.
think about is these are, Ohio Gig's a private equity kind of setup, family office, private equity. They're not, they signed a
Multiple family
25-year deal with Hunting
Multiple
Valley
investors,
and they'll
yeah.
want a 25-year deal with us. They won't be here in year 25. They probably won't be here in year 10. So we got to make sure that we adequately provide for the
Absolutely.
transition
To the
when
extent you
when
can,
they sell out and pass the ball on to
absolutely,
AT&T, Verizon, whoever it turns out to be,
to the extent you can, right?
to the extent you can.
To the extent you can.
I'd be interested in helping on the commercial aspects of this transaction. I don't know anything about the technical side. I've got nothing to add. But on the commercial structure of complicated joint ventures, I know a lot.
Yeah, and I do as well from my work at Eaton, so
Sure.
happy to get feedback.
Sure.
Michael, you had some good comments you gave to Hunting Valley. I think that they were able to incorporate into their
Yep.
agreement, so
Yep.
yeah. Many of us are smarter than one of us, so
Right.
definitely like anyone's comment.
Good.
For what it's worth, I mean, I've been told Ohio Gig's in it for the long haul. They're looking for a steady income stream. So
They're looking for an income stream. so
But they want to
really
sell it.
have-
They want to sell the street, not own it. That's what Michael's point.
That's not what I've heard.
Well,
Yeah.
they don't talk about exit when
They
they're.
may be different.
Makes you an
Like when
offer
you
you
get
can't
your girlfriend.
refuse.
Sure.
Right.
But they're certainly very, very experienced at private equity.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments on that? If not, I think Lori, thank you for leading
Sure.
this and you've got your charge forward and
Okay,
look forward to
good to
making some
go.
good progress.
Whatever happens,
Thank you.
Hunting Valley will finish up with a better deal than they've got. Because we're adding volume and we're adding density. That means the deal can be improved.
Good question, though. If Lori, Michael, David, and Scott are all on this.
No, it's just,
I don't think,
We'd only be on the committee, just
we're
need.
not on the
access.
committee.
Okay.
but
We're just a resource she can use as needed.
Yeah.
yes, anyone who would like to provide feedback.
We work for drinks.
Yeah, apparently they work for drinks.
Just not on our
Also
credit
cheap.
card.
Not with David.
Okay, let's move down. Community, I have talked to a few people who are very interested, including a 12-year resident who has volunteered to be in charge of connecting new residents and new families and new kids to all the stuff that Gates Mills provides. And I'm going to meet with her on Monday. She's been here a dozen years with her family and 3 young kids, 3 kids. And it's amazing the number of people that are kind of knocking on the door, making phone calls, saying, how can I get involved? I think the things that we're doing, like the Easter egg hunt and Encore and so on, start to show a little bit of livelihood and vibrancy, and that's bringing bringing people out from under the woodwork. So we'll make some more progress on that. Clerk's report number 6.
Every 2 years, we have an audit that's required by the state of Ohio. So this coming Monday, an auditor from Charles Harris, which is an independent accounting firm, will be here to audit 2022 and 2023. They've given Janet about 5 pages of information that she has to put together. So leave Janet alone next week. Kidding, but sometimes the state performs the audit and sometimes they sub it out. And so right now we're with Charles Harris.
The last 2 audits we've done, which covers the last 4 years, were unqualified audits. So the books have been in good shape and balanced and accurate, and the internal control systems have been viewed as well established and designed. So hopefully we'll continue to have those results. But with any new auditor, there's a different set of eyes and a different person and a different firm in these cases. And so areas of concentration that they may have, the other person may not have had such focus on. So while we're in a good situation, we'll see what happens. And as you know, when they do issue their report, they don't review it with anyone in advance. They just issue the report. So don't be surprised one day if we get something in the mail that says, as one of the legislative representatives of the municipality, here's the audit report. And we won't be able to preview that with you because frankly, we probably won't have a chance to preview their findings either. Okay, so thank you, clerk. Anything else on the clerk side?
Sometimes they do send out surveys or questionnaires to council people. I wouldn't be surprised if you get one about fraud. Fraud is their hot ticket right now. So in fact, there's new training.
Including me.
Yeah, and this, I think coming up this year, the state is working on, they passed some legislation and fraud training is coming for all of you. So.
And I think they also do a letter about, do you have any questionable transactions with the village?
Good.
One question, different subject. Are we going to do the band concert this July still?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So on the training topic, I noticed we also have required training. That's
Records training,
record
certified
training.
public records training.
Mhm. That's the, I think
You
Zoom
can do it on a webinar.
or webinar.
Yep.
Okay. And I think they offered several.
Yeah, there were several dates
Several
and then
dates.
I think it's even on the Attorney General's website, but you're
Mhm.
supposed to do that once during your term.
Okay. And the fraud questionnaire comes from whom?
It'll come from Charles Harris
Okay, from the auditor. Okay.
Or the state of.
or the state auditor, but in
Or
our
the
case, I
state
think it'll probably come
Okay.
from. We'll find it out.
Okay, thank you. Next item,
I know they're really big on it.
Yes.
item 7, financial report. I talked to Dixon the other day. He'll be back for the May 20th meeting. He's been working with Ancora on revising the investment policy statement along the lines that we've talked about in the past. Interest rates are still good, over 5% these days. So the money that we have with the STAR investment program in the state of Ohio. The financial report for 3 months ending March was finished up and posted to the website earlier today. We're in good shape. General fund revenue was $2.3 million. That includes $450,000 in traffic camera income. The traffic camera expenses are deducted from that, and we end up with a gross profit percent of about 56%. That excludes costs that we would otherwise allocate to the program, for example, the police costs that we spend and prosecutor costs and other kinds of things. So while it looks to be attractive, and it is, it's when you're fully loaded, it's a little less attractive than 56%.
It's reducing speeds. That's the main thing.
Reducing speeds, and the police chief will comment on that to the extent you have questions in the back of his report. Also, the volume of speeders seems to have leveled off at
Exactly.
the last 3 months seem to be kind of the same kind of number. So the financial reports attached. If you have any questions, send them to me. I'm still preparing it as the mayor. I'm not the treasurer of the village anymore. We have a different treasurer. But to ease the transition with Dixon, I've agreed to write it and to publish it as the mayor until he takes over that responsibility in about 4 weeks. So Okay.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
It's a lot of work. Thanks for being on.
Police reports, chief. You've been busy.
Members of council, happy to take any questions you might have. Everybody should be copying my report. Oh, I did want to comment, and I'll get to take questions, but I did want to comment on something that I was just made aware of just last week after the report came out. So next Tuesday, myself, Lieutenant Blucho, and Officer Jessica Newsome will go out to Dublin, near the Columbus area, and we will be receiving the Partners in Prevention Award by the Ohio Crime Prevention Association. And Jessica's done a great job with this. We never had a member on the OCPA. And, she spearheaded this about 4 years ago, kind of took off around the COVID time, and just through active participation that, we partner with the OCPA with, crime prevention strategies. We've hosted trainings next door, Zoom trainings online, and just, some of the things that Jessica's put together for us, resident camera database, for those who want to participate in that, security surveys, and just, she's done a real nice job at this. And so for our recognition, through Jessica's hard work, we're going to be receiving that award next Tuesday in Columbus. So I will not be here next week. We drive in the morning and drive in the afternoon.
Well, we'll invite you and Jess and Lieutenant Blucho next meeting. You can bring the hardware, the trophy, the blast trophy, whatever we get.
Yeah.
This is quite an accomplishment for a small village like ours of 2,200 people and a 10, 15 person police force to be recognized for crime prevention. And all the things that we do, the house checks, the cameras, the flock cameras. It's amazing when there's a situation that goes by, we get great cooperation from neighbors saying, well, you can look at my Zoom if you want. Maybe there's something on there that you can find helpful. And all of that stuff helps prevent crime. And it's great, frankly, to be recognized as a small community for that. So congratulations to you and the team.
Thank you.
Any questions for the chief in terms of this report or comments?
No, just a question. We're now getting to the point where there are 1,500 speeders above 60 miles an hour each month. I was curious what proportion of them we're actually citing. And of those we cite, how many are paying? And then we can handle that financial projections a little more confidently. They're the consequences of this program. The objective was safety. The consequences is how much money one of the consequences is how much money do we raise? And I think we're getting to some sort of equilibrium point now where we should be able to estimate better than we've been able to.
Okay, well, we certainly should be able to do better. The people that we've talked to, including collection agencies that would handle the last tranche of people that don't respond, have essentially said, 50 to 60% first time through, another 10 to 15% after that.
Okay.
And then you got to really get tough. And that might be somebody that is, a notoriously repetitive bad driver. So we do have some indication, but they've also said that really it's 18 months to 2 years before you really have
Really understand. Okay.
an understanding with that kind of sensitivity. But we are getting better data.
It's settling down now. Which is good.
Settling down, I did put in the report that the Lyndhurst Court has increased their ticket cost to us $5 per ticket for every ticket that we asked them to process. That was a unilateral decision. And I think with where we're at, until we have some better information, I don't see the need for us to raise our violation price or get it to you to consider. We'll absorb that $5 is less profit for us, if you will.
Didn't we just make a deal with them last year?
Yes.
Well,
It came in, but
just
you can talk.
jump in on that. So it was supposed to be 25. That's what we were told in the very beginning. The judge can set whatever amount he chooses to. We have no control over that. So it's not a contractual or anything. It's better to play nice and, let him do what he feels he needs to do. There's a lot of overhead, staff that he's put on and whatnot. And quite frankly, he thought the numbers are going to be more than what we have seen. But we figured things would level off.
So it's moving
So
from
that's
$15 per citation to 20. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we're supposed to be 25. Then he said, I think we'll do 15.
Right,
So this is
okay.
not a
Thank you.
surprise.
Yep.
So, it was anticipated. Collection rate, if I can just say that, because I think David was inquiring about this, we're approving about 88% of the citations. So probably 87 to 89, I think.
And what's the reason for not doing the other shit?
Oh, there could be a lot. I mean, this is a whole checklist. I mean, vehicle mismatches, obstructed plates, no plates,
Okay.
you know, I myself, full disclosure.
Slack for somebody.
No, oh, absolutely not. Just, you know, kind of falling short here. So, you know, we had to, reject one. I had a call, about 2 weeks ago from, I think it was a female from the Dayton area, and she was very polite, and, you know, I actually approved it, and, you know, it was kind of rusted out. It got through the company, got through me. I approved it. So we just, you know, went ahead and dismissed that, and no big deal. You know, those types of things, you know, we try not to let go, but, you know, this one got by us and we made it right. So we $8 to $20 on that one.
Thank you. Okay. Chief will be around to talk about 911 when we get to that on the documents here. Dave, Service Department report, please. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, and members of council. You should have received a brief monthly report for the service department. I'm happy to answer your questions you may have. One thing I would just like to note or bring to your attention, so early next week, Fabrizi Construction should be starting to set up single lane closures. So again, please slow down, please be careful in those zones. There'll be construction equipment and trucks coming in and out of that area. So just be mindful, pay attention to the signs. We'll put that project behind us.
At one point, I've been having a little dialogue with David about this. There was a very large mature cherry tree fell across Chagrin River Road a week ago today. Had that hit a car, someone would have died, maybe more than one person. Had it hit a school bus, it was school exit time, right? Yeah, so had it hit a school bus, it would have been a disaster. My question is, whose liability is it? In the event that this tree that fell from private land, it wasn't from village land, it was from private land. And if that tree was in fact diseased, could be proven to be diseased at the time it fell, whose liability? Forget about insurance. I'm just saying whose primary liability is it? Yeah. So, because I was concerned that the stuff was taken away, and I think an experienced arborist would have been able to tell us whether that tree was diseased or not. And I think that might make a difference in terms of liability allocation. It's just a question, really. And I realize we passed that ordinance recently, and it fudged that issue a little bit, because David's told me, and he's correct, obviously, that the liability for removing the tree, not damage it might have done, but for removing it, lies with the village in the event. Sorry, other way around. If there's a notice of violation issued by the village, then the village is entitled to go in and remove the tree and then charge the owner for that operation. So I'm a little confused about how it works, but I'm most concerned about liability, because that could have been a real mess. Imagine it had fallen on a school bus, 3 children killed. What would have happened? I have no idea in terms of liability allocation. And I can't answer that here, I don't think.
Yes, I can.
You got a one-liner?
No liability.
Well, I'm kind of about who does. I want to know who does.
Todd, supposing we notified the owner
We have.
and they
we
didn't
have
do
immunity
anything
for-
and we didn't follow
We have
up.
immunity under state law for enforcement.
So it's a question of private landowners knowing the rules. Because I think this tree was within 20 feet of the road. It doesn't directly affect a power line. So CEI, whomever didn't see it, had no problem with it. But it was a massive tree.
I will say, the cherries, they're pretty notorious. In between Barb Shoe and Jerry, another one came down on the lines that run back to the Ingalls and Larry Frankel's house. It's the second time in 3 months.
I think people ought to
And it's
know.
a big cherry, and it looks pretty healthy to me, but it's still hanging on the line.
I don't even know my own homeowner's insurance, whether a diseased tree, if it fell and killed somebody, whether I would be liable or whether my insurance would pay for it. I have no idea. Act of God, I don't know. I don't know how all that works. You guys do. So just concerns. That's all I have.
No other questions? That concludes my.
Thank you. Tom? You've been busy this weekend.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I submitted my written report. I would like to add 2 things. Because of the inclement weather, the torrential rains, the trees down power lines down over the weekend. We did staff the station the one night for 12 hours with 2 firefighters. The second thing is we've kind of premised council for a station duty proposal. We're still working some of the bugs out of that. I did do an impromptu wage study in the area with some of the area chiefs just to get a little more background so that we're in line somewhat with the other communities in the area. I'll entertain any questions anybody has.
I think subject to the final polish, we'll present that to council next meeting. And I think it's been I did have an opportunity to sit for over an hour with the chief, the assistant chief and the captain, talking about how this would work. We'll probably do Saturday only. Interestingly, when you do the statistics, most fire calls come on Saturdays, for whatever reason. And so rather than trying to staff 3 days on the weekend, Friday afternoon and Monday morning, let's start with one day and see how that works with the staffing, the cost, the duties, responsibilities, et cetera. And then if we choose to expand it after that or next year.
I'd like to think that some of these expenses, we could think about them being funded by the traffic revenues. Because they were put in for safety's purpose, and any revenue we happen to collect, maybe we should be thinking first about using that for safety. And I would include in that an additional patrol car, for example, which has been talked about in conversation. So I think those kinds of ideas.
Yeah, we don't have a proposal to give you, but we do want that conversation later this summer, early fall about adding a third patrol person at certain times. Be great. What that would cost. So on an annual basis, it's a 6-figure number. It's not one we couldn't afford, but once you add that person in those duties, you want to make sure that you're not a year later taking it away saying I didn't really need it. So we're building up a bit of a file on what we would.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libra. Tom, anything else from your standpoint?
No.
So super job this weekend with all the water monitoring and the flooding. I think it was smart to have somebody on call, on station, I should say, not on call, on station for the electrical lines and things that go down. So thanks for doing that. Tom also said we need to put a little bit of a routine together so we know what that is. It's been a little bit of, we haven't really done that in the past. So we need to put a little bit of policy in place as to who would get that call and when we would do that. If winds are at such a level or flooding is at such a level or what have you. In the past, it had been, I think I might need somebody, we probably want to have a little bit more science to it. So thank you for bringing that up. Okay, any questions of the fire department chief? Any other committee reports? I will just say the Budget and Finance Committee is meeting the day before our next council meeting. And I also talked to Warren Morris and he and I on the real estate side, he and I are meeting in May when he returns up north here and talk about the real estate committee and some of the charter, the duties, the members, what we have coming up in terms of lease renewals and so on.
Did you say you're meeting the day before council?
Yep.
It's the finance committee?
Yep.
Okay.
I didn't know that. That's good to know. Thank you.
I didn't know it either.
How you do?
No, we do.
Now we do. Okay. Item 12, authorization on the salt award contract 2024. Dave sent out a note on salt commitments. I think most of you have seen that. Do you want to add any comment to that?
No, hopefully my math was correct, number one. More so, that it certainly made some sense to me. So certainly if you have any other thoughts or think we should do more or less, I'd be happy to make your recommendations or thoughts.
It's salt consumption going down. Not how much you buy, how much you use, not just for us, but for everybody.
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Yeah. Given that this winter was so mild, everybody's going to be in the same boat, having committed to a certain amount and now have to store what we didn't use. So it just rolls over into
So it's been up for lower volumes.
well, I'm trying to think of what's typically the economics. Demand's down, prices down. Demand's up, prices up, right? with salt, I don't know if that's how it's gonna play out. I think if demand's down, the price is gonna be up because they're gonna wanna try and still make the same amount of money. So.
Make sure we're gonna have a place to put it.
So there's less of it.
Right, and they're gonna mine less, correct, right, but they're still gonna wanna make the same amount of money in a calendar year, so how
Yeah,
do they
their
make
fixed
up that
costs are the
difference?
same and,
Right,
yeah.
I'm gonna raise the price per ton. So.
I'm counting on reversion to the mean, so I think we'll get some snow next week.
Well, and if I could just say one thing real quick, so I kind of thought in the three scenarios. One scenario is we have another mild winter. Well, that's gonna mean the same thing as this year. We're gonna store some and we're gonna have a full bin. If we have a little bit of harder winter, hopefully we won't be storing any next year. We'll still have a full bin. And if we really get slammed, we won't be storing anything and we'll have close to empty bin. So I think I've got all three scenarios covered in one.
Okay, can I have a motion to suspend the rules?
So moved.
Thank you, Craig. Second. Thank you, Scott. Clerk?
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve the resolution 2024-9.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 24-10 has to do with the racquetball, the tennis courts. We had budgeted in the recreation fund this year $25,000 to redo the the pickleball courts, the tennis courts. The actual cost as they came in, we reported several times, was $34,836. 25,000 that has been provided for by the general fund as per our budget last year. This motion, this ordinance change is to request $9,836, the difference to come from the Purcell Fund. The Purcell Fund has about $35,000 and has been accumulating over the years to be used for the downtown village area and recreations. It's a perfect fit for that amount of money. Also, we had not budgeted for the cost of the nets. The nets have come out to be $10,860. The Improvement Society has agreed to pay 90% of that, $9,500, making the difference to us about $1,300. That's all the village would pay. We need the higher amount appropriated because we actually have to write the check. So we'll receive a check for $9,500, which we have received from the Improvement Society, and then we'll write a check for $10,836 to pay for lunches. So any questions on that? This has been something we've discussed over a couple of meetings. If not, I appreciate, we need to
You need to suspend.
suspend the rules.
Suspend.
Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Thank you, David.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve ordinance 24-10.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or thoughts? Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yeah.
Press,
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, let me refer to you to the sheet of paper that was sent to you.
I provided copies to you.
So this is from our village engineer who provided a fair amount of the data, and Jen and I put this into a little simpler format. What we wanted to do is to just walk you through where we're spending our road money. This year, the top line is $1,000,043. When we completed the budget process last year, we agreed to spend close to $1 million. It was either $1,043 or $1,083 if you add in the contingencies that we had thought we might have. We had been following the road program that we had approved several years ago, which was costing about $900,000 a year. Remember, going back 3 years, we were spending about $500,000 to $600,000 a year. We weren't getting anywhere. We did a study, determined it was $6 to $7 million. We agreed to split that over 7 years and increase our annual expense roughly from $500,000 to $600,000 to $1 million. At that time, we did not know that County Line Road was going to approach us and asked to do County Line Road from county to county with us at the same time. They had done a significant amount of engineering, which we're not paying for, and evaluated that as part of one of their priorities for this year. That required us to adjust some of the specific things that we had in our program. What you have here at the bottom still is $1,000,012. So it's quite close, but we wanted to run you through the big pieces. So as the trucks start to show up, or the signs start to show up, we know what we have in and what we don't have in. So item A, which is 314,000, that would be kind of the traditional Gates Mills Road program. County road maintenance are those roads that we share with the county, and we share responsibility for those roads with the county, and the county, if they're inclined to, offers to reimburse us for half of the materials portion of the cost. We want to always be supporting the county road programs for that obvious reason. The local roads, those would be things that the county or the state has no interest in supporting, and those are our roads. There's 31,000 there for surface treatment of newly paved ones and $87,000 for spot repairs. The service department, which is all this parking lot here, we had looked at that 2 years ago. We held off for a year, and it's now time to do that. So overall, our road program will be 314,680. We reported several months ago that on Som Center between Gilmore and the Circle, there are some drainage issues. We put those out for bid. You can see the 3 bids that were received. One provider was not responding. Chris can go through the details of that, but the low bid there was $36,000. So we would like to go forward with that. You have legislation on that. Riverview road drainage, you may remember we did Riverview about 2 years ago. There continues to be road drainage problems on Riverview. Chris can talk about what those are at a specific address. That is going to be, that again was bid. The low bid was $42,000. We put that into the budget, into the plan for this year. The county line culvert number 20, there's a typo there. Half of that will be paid by Chester, half by us. That is a large project. It's about $90,000. The bids have not yet come in on that, Chris?
Correct, yeah.
Correct.
Have them before the next meeting. They didn't, they had other big bids they were working on, so they weren't able to get the numbers in by the end of last week.
Okay, so 90,000 is a placeholder, 45 is a placeholder. We'll see what the final number comes in at. And then the county line road paving, every time we talk, this number goes down. So this is a good conversation item. We started $1.8 million and we're down to $1.2 million. But the details there, you can see our 50% share, that is $575. Last time we talked, it was going to be $700,000-800,000, I believe. So if you add all that together, you get to $1,012,860, just about the same kind of number to $1,043,000. We worked it that way. We wanted to be able to do all this work for roughly what we had budgeted. You can always spend more. We really can't spend much less. Otherwise things start to fall apart. So what does get pushed to the side, Hill Creek and Andrews Lane, frankly. And we have those as items 5, 6, and 7, I think, on your detail sheet.
Yeah, we have bids for them so that if there's a decision made a couple months out that we do want to do that, we've got good hard numbers. We'll know we can award it at a
Right.
outspeed.
And we're also probably 6 months earlier than normal. I mean, we're ready to sign these contracts and get the work done. In the past, it was late fall, and then we're doing the work in November. So yes, Michael.
This is a nice outcome, given new things came down the road we didn't know about. Did you have to pull anything out of the road program to make it work out that way, or were we just lucky that some of the bids came in lower?
Well, I think what we took out was, we're going to defer your Hill Creek and Andrews. Is that correct, Chris?
Correct.
Nothing
Yeah,
else?
essentially, we're doing county lines instead of Whole Creek and Andrews.
Right.
And Chris, we're not expecting the type of issues from that Hunting Valley and Chester had from the southern line all the way through Fairmont where that had to be rebuilt, great, so the engineering studies have all come back and they had all these
Yeah,
issues.
Correct, yeah, they
unexpected problems with
widened the
bid.
road down there and they redid the roadside drainage, which is not anything that we're getting into.
Okay,
So yeah, we should be in great
should be
shape.
good. Okay, thanks.
I think from a scope standpoint, we have to remember this is primarily a paving project. We're not rebuilding, we're not widening, we're not refortifying, we're paving. We'll fix things that are broken, but this is not a reconstruction project.
Correct, yeah, I mean, the wild card we have, we've already done an assessment, looking at drive culvert pipes and drive aprons. So that we can fix any drive culvert pipes that need to be repaired, because I think we've got maybe 6 of them or something like that.
I don't think we have your cost in here for the on-site inspection. At one time that was
Correct, I think last.
25 to 30,000.
$35,000.
comes to mind, so that would eat up a little bit of the difference between the budget of 104.3 and the 101.2.
Question and a comment, if I may. On County Line Road, are you resurfacing the entire road or are you doing parts of it?
The whole road,
The whole road.
4.5 miles.
So it'll look really nice.
Yep, from
Right.
Hunting Valley
Gotcha.
all the way to Willoughby. And then also including in Chester, the portion of Old Mill from Mayfield down to County Line. That'll be done as well.
I suspect the chief would agree that that will lead to people driving even
Has to.
faster than they do today.
Especially young people. Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we should seriously think about some of those speed signs that flash to keep, to warn people, because it will be tempting.
Sure.
And at the same time, we should be patrolling that area. And if there are people that are going 60 miles an hour, then they deserve to be pulled over.
If you're going to delay Hill Creek and Andrews, remember we've got $10 million in the bank. I know it's earning 4 or 5% these days, but I wonder what we're going to do with that money eventually. And I worry that if we're delaying things that we should have really be doing, I'm not sure why. So if I don't know enough about Hill Creek and Andrews. I've driven them, but I don't know enough about what's involved or how much money might be involved. But it seems to me to be a little odd that we're delaying 2 streets for another year. And we don't know what prices will be another year from now. And yet we have $10 million in the bank. I don't understand that.
Okay, we see it as swapping, year 5 for year 4, so to speak, and pushing them off a year. But you've got a good point. We do have adequate resources to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can keep talking about that as the year goes on.
Absolutely. That's
We
fine.
haven't done the transfer to the capital fund yet.
Right.
Which is-
County Line is kind of an
900,000.
anomaly, had
Oh,
had
so
that not
closer to
taken
1 million.
place, we wouldn't be deferring those two, so.
Because we didn't want to defer them.
Right.
And so, but now we are.
Right.
And the question is why?
Just for information's sake, based on the bids, Andrews is about $90,000 and Hill Creek is about $400,000.
Well, so it's $500,000.
It's significant.
That's a big chunk. It's bigger than I imagined.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so with that background, I think there are 3 resolutions that require council action. The first one would appear to be got a little out of order here. I'm sorry. 2024-11. Thank you. Do we need to suspend the rules? And we want to get started on these, right, Chris? So we can't wait 3 meetings.
So I'll move to suspend.
Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. No one.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Resolution to approve 2024-11. Motion to approve resolution 2024-11.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comment or question? Roll call, please.
Anton.
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Next, 2024.
Well,
Yeah, I got out of order here. 12. You have yours, Andy. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter a contract with Nerone and Sons for the Riverview Drainage Improvement Project at 442 and 443 Riverview Road, declaring emergency. We have a motion to suspend the rules. Thank you, Michael.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Press,
yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Motion to approve resolution 2024-12.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, David. Any question or comment? Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yeah.
Press,
Yeah.
Steinberg.
Yes.
On the roads, the final one, resolution 2024-13, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Agresta Construction for the Psalm Center Drainage Improvement Project and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend. Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon.
Yeah.
Press, Steinberg.
Yes.
And a motion, please, to approve the resolution.
I'll move.
Second.
Roll call.
Anton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon.
Yeah.
Press.
Yes.
Steinberg.
Yes.
Thank you all for that, and thank you, Chris, for the good work, you and your team putting these options together for us. And let's stay on top of Hill Creek and Andrews, we'll see where we end up, David, as the year goes on. We also have, of course, just my conservativeness, we've got the Mayfield Road Culvert project starting too, and, it's signed, it's ready to go, we'll just see what happens when you start turning over the dirt, so maybe a little bit of conservativeness there. Okay, that takes us to the 911 plan. So Chief, you can help me with this one, please. You received this yesterday, email is 55 pages, along with 2 resolutions that were asked to sign by the county. The county is required to issue a 911 plan on an annual basis. There had been discussion that the plan would be approved by a 5-member council. And one of those members of that 5-member council is the mayor's representative. The mayor's organization in Northeast Ohio and in Cleveland, 69 communities, has a seat on this committee. And in the past, that was held by Mayor Ruby out of Brecksville, who's retired, and it's been now run by that seat by Mayor Gale out of Euclid. The thought was that that 5-member person could approve the plan. This county and the state had conversations on that and decided that that isn't the way the approval needs to go. Rather, the approval needs to be for each of the municipalities to approve that at its council meeting. So unlike something that I could have just signed as the mayor after discussion with you all, this now needs to be presented to council to do 2 things. Number 1, approve Mayor Gale as the mayor's, plural mayors, all the mayors representative on this committee. And secondly, accept and approve the 911 plan. I thought that was a bit onerous last night 2 days ago when I got that. And even though I do a lot of reading, this one's full of acronyms, so you gotta really want to get through it. And I did. But the short story is 2/3 of the communities need to approve the plan. Otherwise, it goes back for redo. We need to approve Mayor Gale to be our representative. And if you are so inclined, we need to approve the plan. I've told them I thought that was onerous and a bit unfair. And if council doesn't want to move that quickly, then we won't move that quickly. We just take this up next meeting. The gist of this benefit to us is that the county is trying to move the 911 calls out of what's called CCOM, which is the county's communication system where all 911 calls go. When they go there, they are sorted and sent to dispatch centers. That takes a minute to minute and a half of every call that comes on 911. If you get an 8-minute response time, you're using a minute and a half to just get it from that chair to that chair. This plan and Sugar Valley Dispatch, I think, would be the pilot of getting all the 911 calls out of CCOM and into the dispatch centers. And if that works over a period of a year or 2, as these 20 some odd dispatch centers get plugged into this new system, we would all be saving about a minute and a half of time on an emergency call. Is that a fair summary?
That's a fair summary. It's,
You want to
yeah, there's a lot that
comment?
goes into CCOMs. You have to have cooperation with the caller. Because, some are more emotional than others, you're trying to pull information out of them. What is your emergency? And the nature of the emergency, it's, it could take a minute and a half, or sometimes it takes 3 minutes. It just depends.
And this is landlines or this is just cell
These are
phones?
just cell
This is
phones.
Cell phones,
Right.
yes.
Right. So, but that's the average time, but sometimes it does take more than that. So, I talked to Director DeSico at CVD today and, he fully endorses, Mayor Gale. I sat in on these meetings with her. She's very much in tune to what goes on in the county. She's, she would be next.
She has been sitting in for Mayor Ruby since he retired and even before he retired to kind of get up to speed on this.
So of the two resolutions, that one I would like to have acted on today. It essentially says that we approve her as our representative. And
Otherwise, you'd need a special meeting if you're going to act on this because the deadline's May 17th.
It says right here.
And your meeting, I believe, is the 21st.
everyone we've talked to is apologetic for the short time. Okay, at the same time, they haven't changed their date. So sorry, but here it is. I went through it last night. The gist of it, as I said, this is a report of full of acronyms and how things work, how they've been working in the past. But the practical impact for us and all the communities will be, we cut a minute to a minute and a half out of response time by moving the 911 calls to the dispatch centers directly and out of CCOMs. And we have the opportunity, because we're part of Sugar Valley Dispatch, to be, essentially the first site where this is tried.
And it also makes sense too, because Euclid is part of Sugar Valley Dispatch. So that's a benefit.
So first of all, any questions on how you got it, what it is, and what you want to do with this?
I mean, they've got it. Euclid's got to be one of the largest users. She's got the most experience, probably.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. The last page has Euclid with 49,000 residents. That would be probably the third largest suburb in Cleveland.
Right.
Yeah, the way it works is like Parma, it has to have the most populated city, like suburb, which would be Parma. So you have the city of Cleveland, biggest city, and then suburban department would be Parma. And then one of two, there's two townships in Cuyahoga County, Olmsted Township, and I can't recall. Chagrin Falls, and that's, really operated by Chagrin Falls, right? But so Olmsted Township has a representative at one of the township trustees.
So with that, they gave us a resolution that they'd like us to adopt. Janet and Todd collaborated to put that together. We sent it out electronically to you as well yesterday, along with the document. And 2024-14 and 2024-15 are those documents. Are people inclined to approve this? You inclined to want to wait a month and read it and do something with it?
I'll move to suspend resolution 2024-14.
You have a second? Thank you, Lori. Any kind of roll call on the suspension?
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Russ,
Yep.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
May I have a motion to approve 2024-14?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any conversation? Roll call?
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Russ,
Yeah.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Okay, next item, 2024-15, resolution voting for the mayoral rep on the county's 911 review program and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Thank you, Scott.
Second.
Thank you, David. Roll call?
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Motion to approve 2024-15.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Roll call?
Eton,
Yes.
Broom,
Yes.
Deacon,
Yes.
Russ,
Yes.
Steinbrink.
Yes.
Thank you for that courtesy. Okay, next item on the agenda would be any other council matters, and I know we have a few people in the audience that probably have comments too. Michael?
I've got several actually this time. Let me start with one that I understand that Geauga County just got a message from Columbus that their property taxes are going up on the order of 30%. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard. if that was if that was an increase of that nature were likely to happen to us, I think I'd rather be in front of it rather than behind it and tell people about it before it's a done deal, if that's at all possible. I don't know a thing about real estate taxes, but it's something we ought to look into, I think.
Yeah. It's not quite as simple as that. Every 6 years, as you know, the county reevaluates all properties. Geauga County was done last year. And they were directed by Columbus, I think it was the Budget Commission, to increase their real estate values by around 30% based upon what nobody seems to know. Now, if values go up by 30%, that does not mean real estate taxes go up by that much. There are certain levies that are sort of charter levies, inside levies. They don't, they go up, but those levies stay the same and your taxes go up if your value goes up. The other levies, which are the majority of levies, particularly for us, are controlled by what's called House Bill 290, which says that the total revenues from that levy, from those levies, must remain the same. So that if values go up, the levies themselves come down correspondingly. So the revenues remain the same. So if we were to have a 30% increase in valuations in here and the other parts of the school district, our real estate taxes would only go up by something like 3%, because only 10% of our levies are of the first sort, the inside, whatever. I think that's right, isn't it, Janet? Is that your understanding of it?
How levies work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what would happen is that, and revenues to the village itself would increase more than that, because on our village levies, almost a third of the levies are of the first kind, not the second kind. So if we had a 30% increase in valuations in Gates Mills, revenues to the village would go up by 10%. Now,
Our levies are the ones that stay the same.
yes.
Yes.
And what's interesting is that Mayfield City Schools are still contemplating a levy increase in November. They're still talking about it, and I hope if they do it, they come and talk to us about it as well. If they put on 5 mills, that will mean a 7% increase to people in the village on their real estate taxes annually, which I talked about at the last council meeting, which is a large number for people. But the school district itself would only increase its revenues by 3%. Whereas the levy, the revaluation would only increase their levies by 3%. The new levy would increase them by 10%. So there's no way that this will distract Mayfield in terms of pursuing its levy increase. So whether or not we get a 30% increase or not, I don't know. I spoke to some people in the Cuyahoga County office this morning, and they're expecting a big number. Now, bear in mind that over the period through COVID, from 2019 to 2023 valuations, here in Gates Mills, our values went up by 3%. In places like Mayfield, Moreland Hills, they went up by 13%. And I think we might expect to see, I'm guessing, nobody really knows, that our increases might be picked on for being to be increased a little more than maybe other communities around here. So it's something we've got to keep our eyes on. The revaluation is already going on. Individual taxpayers will receive a notification in July as to how the property value of their house, of their residence, will be affected. When we get that, we still won't know exactly what the levies are going to be, because they have to be adjusted because of this House Bill 920. So it's something to keep our eyes on. There's not much we can do about it. But I think it puts into a different perspective the Mayfield City Schools levy proposition of 5 mills. So I just thought it's complicated. It's very complicated. I tried to simplify it. It's difficult.
Well, you did a good job simplifying.
But I think it's something we should be aware of. But if someone says your value is going to go up by 30%, feel good. It means your house is 30% more valuable than you thought it was. Your taxes will only go up by 3%.
Michael, you started this conversation by saying, you know, I'd rather be ahead of it than behind it. Do you have a specific thing that we want to?
No, I just think it's something we ought to look at, like David said. And I think we've gone as far as we need to go at this stage of the game. I could ask for a show of hands of everybody who understood all that, but I don't think I'll do that. 'Cause I think I know the outcome.
But if anybody wants to talk about it, I'd be happy to do that. I've done a lot of work on it, so I do
Similar to
understand.
how we're going to put a plain English version together of our
Oh, it's fine.
ordinances, right, Dave?
There is
Yeah,
a good
we
tax
need-
attack letter
As I say,
online.
we should maybe consider tax attack.
Yeah, all the tax
Wow.
attack letters are online on our website that Bob Reitman did when he was treasurer, and he explains those types of levies very well.
Yeah,
Well, maybe we should consider pulling out the one or two that relate to this
and
and
updating it.
republishing.
Absolutely.
Would you, if Jan and I found those, would you be
I'd
willing
be
to
happy to do that.
help us
Sure,
edit them?
sure.
I think he kept them pretty vanilla so that they didn't have to change with
Right,
numbers or
sort of
anything.
enduring, yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think with numbers, I think we should be cautious and let the county be the one to say what things are going up or down,
Sure,
not us.
sure.
Yeah, because the reassessment's based on fair market value, right? So you can't just go through and go 30, 30, 30, 30,
No,
right?
it's different by municipality. So
But the auditor assesses by fair market value, right?
yeah, by property.
Right, by property, by property.
Yeah.
So they can't just go, okay, all you guys are 30%.
No, but apparently Geauga
Right.
County did get a directive from Columbus
Yeah.
to increase their numbers by 30%. I don't understand all that.
Yeah, I don't.
It's
Um,
an aggregate for all of the.
For all of the
actors
county.
Of the county, not on individual
No.
homes. They're not saying everybody up 30, they say the appraised market value up 30%.
Yeah,
The overall.
leave
for the
the-
county.
on
Overall
average.
For the
the
county
decision
in the
about the
aggregate, which still seems, you know,
It's bound to cause a lot of confusion
it has, and angst,
and more so as the word gets around about Geauga County.
absolutely.
Their letter just came out recently.
Yes,
All right.
seems like you'd have to have the grounds to do that. I mean, the valuation
Some people,
data
they
to
do.
say, hey, you guys are under.
no, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. sure.
Next item number 2 is a matters arising kind of thing. A couple of months ago, we discussed the recommendations of the Charter Committee. If I've got it right, we agreed not to move forward with a charter amendment because we thought the recommended changes were not sufficiently material to justify the effort. Then we had a little discussion about, well, what would make a charter amendment material? I suggested that significant zoning changes should go to the voters, and that would be a good charter amendment. It would make our charter, I think, better. Lori countered with significant is pretty vague and ambiguous.
And
So-
legal counsel advised us that it was.
So I
vague.
took the challenge. And if I, as a whipping boy, I would say the charter amendment would say something like, it goes to the voters if it affects the 5-acre spacing, or if it affects multi-family dwellings, or if it affects section 1160. That's quite specific, and I think that captures, I think the voters would think that was a good thing, not a bad thing. So that's my proposal.
So do it by example rather than by definition.
Correct.
Yeah, because we have problems with the definition.
Sure, when the example is
Yeah.
clear.
And so that's why we came up with any zoning ordinance. Actually, we broadened it
Sure,
to cover anything.
sure.
So if people don't like the fence ordinance, they could,
Yep.
have a referendum.
Anyway, something to think about. We could take it up next month or whenever we have
Do you all
time
want
on
to
the
pick it up
agenda.
next month?
There's not a big rush. We can do it anytime we want.
Well, there is a timeline.
Timing for the November election is the first Friday in September. And we'll take council action to send that to the Board of Elections.
Well, you probably have to get it started even.
Well, with 3 readings and all the rest of it.
If you do 3 readings.
So it's almost right away if we intend to do it. And I think it's something that ought to be discussed really on the basis of what came out of the comprehensive plan. People were very adamant. They don't want to see any change in zoning whatsoever.
yet the plan itself contains recommended changes
Suggested
to
changes.
zoning. So we have a little bit of a awkward situation.
And this would resolve it.
So I'm sorry, I guess I'm a little confused. So the Charter Review Committee, Michael, you were a part of that, right?
Yeah,
And the recommendation of council was there are not enough changes, and now we're
yeah, I wrote
7 or 8 months
I wrote the
later.
minority report.
Okay, so that's fine. So whatever we are 9 months or 8 months later, that now council should take up something when the committee that was asked to review the charter didn't come back with anything.
Well,
You bring up-
Craig, a little more.
But you
I
bring up
was
the-
the original agitator to have a charter committee review. Karen agreed. Karen realized she didn't want to have agreed, so she stacked the deck in the committee so that I'd get outvoted.
Okay, well,
And it took 2
not
years.
gonna make any comments on that. I just look at it and say, we had a committee, it was delegated to the committee. The committee came back, said we don't need to make any changes. They're significant, and now we're going to, it's April, it's gonna be May, in the course of 2 months, put something together, turn around and have in front of voters by the second week or the first week in August on the ballot that.
No, it gets filed in August. It doesn't get voted on in November.
September.
I think it's August. I read the timetable. I thought it was August.
And so,
No,
It's
not.
charter, for charter is early September. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
and
I don't care whether we do it this year or any year. I just
I'm
think,
just, it's more
I think it's a good
process
idea. Many
driven
of us around the table, including yourself, have said significant zoning changes should go to the voters.
And I'm
Karen used to
Right.
say it.
absolutely.
Let's
And everything-
let's put our money where our mouth
Exactly.
is.
Chair of Planning and Zoning, well aware of it, and I'm even more concerned about what's going on in upstate New York right now, where there are challenges through the large lot zoning issues in New York that
Still not.
legislatures can come in and do something like that. So is that the best approach, or is it to go to homeowners individually and ask for a restriction being put on every individual parcel
It's
potentially
safer. We
that
talked about
handles that where nothing can be done? So
If you put on deed.
it's not
restrictions-
about
That might have
something
unforeseeable consequences, but it's an interesting.
Yeah.
something that's a
No,
good
we
idea.
talked about that. That is the best way for it to be enforced.
I think the reason the Charter Review Committee didn't recommend this to take zoning changes to the voters was because they couldn't define what significant meant. We're now bypassing
Well,
that
we-
problem.
yeah, we came
So
up
we're
with-
taking away a problem. Well, yeah, you compromised because you couldn't define.
But you compared it to other communities as well.
I was actually the one who went back and looked at the other communities,
so did I.
suggested that, that the zoning issue be addressed and on our agenda. And it is covered in other communities, and it's just pretty straightforward. I could go back and look at my notes, I can't remember.
Yeah,
but
I
3 or
looked at a
4,
couple too. Independence, I looked at this afternoon.
Independence, yeah.
Although they did it by ordinance, not by charter.
I would just think a better forum for all that.
Had it in the charter.
A better forum for that, in my opinion, would be the
Oh,
work that's being
shoot,
done
you
as
know
part of
what?
the comprehensive plan that would come out of this versus.
You know what?
Yeah, I think.
A
that
discussion.
The reason I brought it up again
Yeah.
is
Put
it's
my
a very
notes here.
clear message coming out of the comprehensive plan is we don't want zoning changes.
At all.
Agreed.
And we, in the last schedule, together the last meeting, you know, we had sections 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 4 had this on there specifically as something that came out of the planning
I
process.
have my notes here. and I'll-
So realistically, I don't see this happening this year. We've got a lot going on that, not to say that shouldn't be discussed by council. But when you start thinking about this and explaining it and then writing up the language and getting a couple thousand people informed, we want to change the charter for these reasons. There's a whole education process.
In
Town
this
halls.
case, I don't think there'll be much selling involved. I
No.
think people will jump at the chance. Everybody I've talked to in the village, and I've been talking about this since I ran, which is over 2 years ago, is in favor. I haven't met anybody who's against it.
I think what
There's other items in
Steve's
the
saying
charter,
is the
charter
procedure, the
recommendations.
process.
There may be a better way to do it than a charter amendment. Craig might be right about that, but I think we ought to do something.
The process, but also frankly, there's places in the charter where it doesn't conform anymore to statute, like things have changed. I mean, there was cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
So,
all a package of
I mean,
cleanup
if you're
stuff
gonna
that Todd
put it
wanted to
and
do.
spend the money to put it up, shouldn't you be doing some of that cleanup? And that's what You know,
could.
Todd-
Oh, yeah, if you did this with the zoning, you'd pick up
You know,
all of
same
Todd-
time.
There
all
was
of
a fair
Todd's
amount of
changes.
Cleanup, yeah.
The charter's never been changed since it was created, as far as I'm aware.
She's still in there.
I took my. Yeah.
Well, could be. They want to leave that.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Anyway, I took my file out.
Well, hang on a minute. There are
So we can reach among the five of you here, we're missing two, of course, but this is something we want to continue to discuss.
Yes.
I wouldn't want to do it without Sandra and Em.
Yeah.
And charter review can be done by, charter changes could be done by initiative from the voters. Doesn't depend on council. So there's another process, a parallel process that could be undertaken that I think some people would be interested in doing.
Anyway.
You had a third item?
I have three more,
Okay.
but they're getting faster. Investment committee, we said last year at Budget and Finance that we're going to create an investment committee. That's an item hanging out there. We can either do it or not do it, but we probably ought to deal with it one way or the
I
other.
think when Dixon comes back with his recommendations on the policy, that item which is in there, we're either going to staff it or take the role out.
Okay.
And
And Dixon-
part of it is it was put in there before we had an outside advisor. And when we put in an outside advisor through Ancora, no one ever took out the language that said, what do we need an investment committee for? We're paying someone to do that for us.
Oh, I thought you wanted to have an investment committee.
I just want simple. I
All right.
want outside expertise, whether it's coming from a committee that people that know that material firsthand, or it's coming from someone that we pay as a consultant to do that.
And who do they report in? Who do they report into?
They report into the Budget and Finance.
Right now, they
The
report to
finance
Budget and
committee?
Finance, which is a fairly big, fairly unwieldy committee. And I thought we proposed at one point, we have a three-man committee.
We could go that route, or the other one is to
Treasury
just take it out of the investment policy statement.
Well,
And that actually should be a good item for the
besides this, from
Yes.
the Budget and Finance
Yes.
meeting.
It becomes a question of what instructions do we give the investment Ancora? What do we tell them to do?
It's the investment policy.
Yeah, that's.
Yes.
your
Investment policy.
But the investment policy is stationary, and around it, there's a lot of flexibility. And
meanwhile, interest rates are going
yeah.
all over the place. So we ought to take a look at the instructions.
They're not waiting for us to adjust the
Are
statement.
they lengthening the maturities?
They have a parameter to do that.
I don't know how much discretion we gave them. I thought they were pretty
Exactly.
much just rolling over
On a ladder.
laddered investments and not changing the maturities very much.
They have in the latitude, what's written, the ability to have a longer maturities.
A little longer or a lot longer?
I don't know what little and long means right
I
now.
believe the state mandates a 5-year maximum maturity on
Charter.
municipal.
That's not what our policy says. Our policy has 8 years, doesn't
We're
it?
a
For some-
charter, so we have our own
Yeah,
investment.
Yes,
longer than
exactly.
5 for
Oh, we're
sure.
chartered.
But
Yes.
I'm talking about the state.
The policy provides a broader set of directions
Yes.
than how they've been operating. They can operate with more elasticity to what they want to invest in.
Whatever they've got, I would think it's a good idea to set up a investment committee and at least take a look at what's there, even if it's a temporary committee
Sure.
that only exists for 6 months.
Yeah.
Did they report to you quarterly? Their finance?
They report to us monthly.
Might get a monthly report.
Okay. Okay.
Well, the Budget and Finance Committee hasn't met for a long, long, long time.
December.
Yeah.
Time to do that in May. Okay, item 4.
Item 4, we still need a long-term financial forecast.
Okay, item 5.
Item 5, I wanted to end on an entertaining note. I wanted you all to know that Addie's Cup is planning a dog day on May the 11th. So bring your dog, spread the word.
What time?
I think it's a long time. It's like from 9 to 11 or 10 to
Okay.
2 or something like that. It's a fairly long period of time.
Okay.
You don't want too many dogs there at one time, right?
Any other items from council? If not, we'll turn to the audience who
One
will patient.
question, if I may.
Yeah.
Do we know if Addis are going to extend their lease?
I believe so. I had a conversation with David and Mary. They're planning obviously their anniversary party. They have an anniversary ice cream one day for a truck for free. Got the dog bones coming. Every indication is they are
They're in it.
You know, along the same,
I may
along
have
the,
heard a rumor that Dave and Mary and Cindy are going in on a sign to put over the door. So for Addie's Cup. So if they're gonna, don't tell her.
According to ordinance, correct?
I don't.
along the same line, we signed somebody, I think Chip signed an LOI when we were negotiating over the second floor of Burton Court, the second floor expansion. We ought to take a look at the LOI and make sure we're happy to have that still out there. I don't know what the
Or not.
maturity of that was.
Or not, yeah.
Or not, yeah.
All right, we will look into that. Thank you. Okay, items from the audience. We've got, thank you all for the last hour and a half sitting with us. Dennis, I know you have potentially some comments to share.
All right. Dennis Lezat, Bridget and I live at 620 Chagrin River Road. You're familiar with that address. It's right adjacent to the three-way stop at Brigham Road. So, and I'll try to be as brief as I can here. I didn't, it's not my intention to get into a lot of detail about what I think problems are there or somebody else thinks. It's, I really want to create some awareness, and that's something I've been trying to do in our neighborhood. But we have a what I consider to be a public safety issue. We have excessive speeding on a, not constantly, but on a very regular basis. It's not an anomaly at all. And I think the problem with it is a lot of people wouldn't notice it. You sort of have to be there front and center, which I am, unfortunately. And I'm very concerned because it's not, it has been represented in the past, I think, as a noise problem. The thing is, the noise is secondary. The noise is an output from somebody aggressively driving with their vehicle. And this is motorcycles and cars alike. It's not one or the other. So it's not a noise problem. And people, if you leave that stop sign and travel south, you're coming up a slight rise. I call it a hill, but it's not really that. And when you get to the point there where the Embrechas, I always say that wrong, Embrechas live, and there's a blind spot on the other side or other residents' driveways. And I think most people would be shocked if they could see what I see happen on a regular basis. I don't know what motivates people to drive that way or do that at that particular location. It's kind of funny. It's almost become sort of a cult thing, I think. I don't know. There's those silly signs that say, rapid acceleration prohibited. Maybe that's firing up the natives. I don't know. But I just know they're doing it and they're making it unsafe for me and my neighbors. And so I very recently put out a little communication to some residents along that area, probably farther out than that, but just to see if anyone else had other responses. I have personally walked up and spoke with some of my neighbors about this. I would like to, if you'd indulge me, I'll just take a minute to read a few of theirs. And these are no names on here, and the only readers I brought with me, sorry. But it's cool, right? We have cyclists and new drivers entering CRR. That's, some of us get tired of saying it now. We've abbreviated it. CRR regularly. It is very concerning that they may not be seen because of drivers' excessive speeding. I noticed raceway behavior on early Saturday and Sunday mornings. That is one of the times it's prolific. Visible police at these hours helps, but I'm sure it's costly. We like the speed monitor that was placed up last fall. It'd be great to have a permanent speed camera. They're offering the suggestions. Another resident said, we experience loud and dangerous traffic in the warmer months and are frustrated by it as well. Cars and motorcycles go around the curves near our home way too fast. I often ask myself, why aren't the police stationed nearby? I'm sorry, I'm not poking any fun at anybody. That's just what they said. On weekends when the issue is at its peak. Another resident, since we moved this fall, we have definitely noticed the traffic speed issue highlighted in your letter. That's the communication I sent out. We will often walk our dog over the bridge to get to the Wilson Mills trailhead. And there are times when we reconsider that because of the potential safety risks caused by careless and speedy drivers. And the last one I'll read to you is the north-south hill. That's that
rise that I was talking about. Passes the traffic light, creates a blind spot in both directions that is particularly hazardous to pedestrians, bicyclists, and those emerging from their driveways. The hazard is magnified when vehicles exceed the posted speed limit and vehicles routinely exceed the posted speed limit as they rapidly accelerate from a stop on the north end to the top of the hill south. And that's a few of their comments, and I apologize if my reading wasn't that good, but the thing is, it's a bigger problem. There's a behavior problem there. It's not just, the chief and I have been talking about this for about a year and a half now, and he's done some things to try to be helpful. The car you put out there the other day it was funny to watch these folks come by and they're looking, there's nobody in the car, but they're not going to speed. So, and that's a great temporary mitigation, but I really believe, and my neighbors believe, that we need some kind of a long-term solution here. And one of the things that we've been pushing for is to get a traffic study. And this is ODOT's road, right? This is the state road. They own the road. And I'm sure they have traffic engineers and people who specialize in this that are really smart people about how to address these kinds of problems. And some data needs to be collected, because I can say what I think the problem is. You can say what you think it is. We really don't know until we measure it and collect the data, because that'll tell us what the problem is, define it for us, and help us find some answers. So that's probably the long-term solution. I don't know how long that's going to take, but personally, I'm committed to staying with this as long as it takes, because I think the state owes us some safety on that road there. And the problem, it may be bigger than that little section that I'm talking about. I hear it go on. I'll just leave you with this. This is last night. Now, this is an unusual evening for it, but 10:30 at night, somebody stopped there and just went screaming up that highway. And you can hear them way, way down to the end of the road when they reach to 322 and stop and then turn and go up. That's how noisy it is. But it's, again, what's not the noise that bothers me, it's the speed they're traveling. You take one of these super bikes in fifth gear, by the time he hits that hill, he's already changing into fifth gear. That's less than a quarter mile away. And he's got to be going in excess of 80 miles an hour or more. I don't have a speed gun, but I know how those motorcycles work. So anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but my neighbors and I would like to see, I think, three things. Not necessarily in this order, but a committee that's sponsored by the village. Because I think to get this get ODOT and people like that involved is going to involve village sponsorship, not a group of residents yelling at the whoever they think will listen. I think that we need a meeting with ODOT that includes residents and some council members or whoever, an open meeting where we can sit and explain to them and let them listen and hear our problems. There was a third thing I'm trying to remember. The traffic study and a committee and just to get some focus around the problem, so that we can make some change happen and not just talk about this. My understanding, and Chief, you can help me out here. I think you confirmed this is something that's been a long-standing problem. It kind of rises up and goes down, and then rises up and comes back. But I think we have an opportunity to fix it if we get some people behind it and stay with it. Anyway,
Yes, Chris.
thank you for hearing me out. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I have one more thing, because Michael was poking me, I think, a little earlier, and my good friend Jerry keeps asking me about the broadband thing. I have some experience in this area leading projects with advanced communication systems for police and fire and bus systems, and at places like the Golden Gate Bridge and some other lesser known locations. So my experience is more technical and implementation, and I've written scopes of work and contracts around these things as well. But so if you ever want to run something by me or let me read something and just tell you what I think, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked Chris to just, if you can, with little notice, comment a bit on a traffic study and noise study, traffic study, ODOT study. Chris, are you able to share some
Yes,
thoughts?
so we talked a little bit about.
Can you stand to the camera, please?
Apologies, we talked about this a little bit last month. The gentleman that we used to help leverage ODOT and obtained about $500,000 worth of money from ODOT to redo the 322 Third River Road intersection for safety upgrades. I reached out to him immediately after that meeting. He was out of town for 3 weeks. He was out of the country, so he's now back. I had a phone call with him tomorrow morning or tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was gonna see if the chief wanted to participate today, just to discuss from a procedural standpoint, given that it's a state route, safety concerns, noise concerns, road geometry concerns, if he has any suggestions on how to proceed. The program that we used in order to get that money for Spring River Road and 322 required some spend on the front end from the village in order to get a safety study done, which we then used to go and ask for the money to actually mitigate the problem. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit to obtain some ideas, talk with the chief, see any ideas that he has, Dave has, and then we can put together a plan of attack that we can stand behind from a couple different city departments and then report back to council on.
Can we pick 3 weeks out where you and your small group there, Dennis and I, sit and talk about what you found?
Yeah.
Dennis, is that
That would be great.
responsive?
That would be awesome.
I think there could be solutions. It's like the culvert on Mayfield Road. There just was never money, was never high enough priority. It was
I think
come and go, you know, we
that's
got
on the key, you know, so I was listening to him talk, I'm thinking to myself in my engineering mind, okay. You know, there's speed, how fast are cars going, you know, that's something that needs to be quantified. Noise, one person's lot of noise is not what the standards call a lot of noise in the ODOT books. You know, how much noise is there? Site distance issue, you know, what is the geometry of Spring River Road as you get south of Brigham? You know, is there in fact a site distance problem, or is it just a little bit uncomfortable? How many accidents have there been, if any? So there's a lot of things that need to be quantified, and that's very likely where the starting point is going to be, is try to get all that information together. Because then at that point in time, once we know that, then we can start discussing solutions on how to address specific numbers.
So let's get the 3 of us together before next council meeting. Give you guys a couple weeks to get your resources lined up and conversations. Okay, Lori.
So I don't know if this angle would go anywhere, but that is the historic district. Which, you know, maybe we talk about it. Dave's gone tomorrow. I don't know if there are any special rules that might apply.
Not so much, I mean, it's the state route, yeah, it's
Right.
for our historic district, but for the most part, we're gonna be
Because it's a
bound
federal,
by ODOT standards
even
and
though it's a federal designation.
may have some impact on it in terms of noise
Might be a
levels.
card to play, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So just a thought.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Pass on our thanks to your
Appreciate
fellow residents too.
Appreciate your time and listening to.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Chuck?
I project my voice better than I stand, so let me sit. I'm Chuck Spear, I'm a resident. I started Michael down the tax rat hole just a week or so ago to get him interested in this, because I had been looking at it, and the critical thing to me was the disaster that Geauga County had when the auditor sent out a letter saying, we've been told by the state to increase the tax this much. All hell broke loose in Geauga County.
The valuations.
Yes, but in the communities, the least increase of all of the communities of Geauga County was 16%. The high end was 40% actual increase in the tax bill. So I have relatives in that county, and they said, what is going on? So I looked at it. Mass appraisal software is used by the state to come up with that number that they gave Geauga County. The primary ingredient of that is actual transactions, sales during the 3-year period. So what I did was I looked at Gates Mills. I looked at the 145 transactions that took place 2021 to 23. I compared the market appraisal on the books to the sale price and discovered that we're up about 30%, about the number that they put into Geauga County. I then looked at every suburb in Cuyahoga County and the city of Cleveland to see what the appreciation had been in all of those communities, because that's a factor in how these allocations are set up. We are about in the midpoint of the county. In 2021, we were very low in the range. That's the triennial. The increase that was afforded Hunting Valley was 0. We got a 3% increase. And when the whole thing ran out, what actually happened on our tax bills was a 5% reduction. But this 30% is going to translate into a big number. The annoyed taxpayers of Geauga County, of Chester Township, came in to pressure the council. I don't think they had torches, but they might have. And council said, we have an idea. Let us forego the revenue we're entitled to collect on a levy to help you people out. So that's what can happen if it happens badly. So I really think we get on top of this as a public relations thing. We're very careful about what we publicize when it goes out, because telegraphing something bad is really bad. So
yeah,
I have the data if anyone is interested in looking at it at any time.
Thank you. Thanks for all that homework. Jerry?
Just it's hard to believe that the school system is talking about a new levy. They aren't well aware of this. They aren't well aware of this, the details of what we're starting to talk about. It seems to me to be very useful to sit down with their financial guy and say, this is what we think. What do you think? Because it's hard to believe they're going to try to get a levy passed into a huge tax increase. And I think it would be helpful because they may have a different point of view on this. So I think
I agree.
You talk to them.
Sure, I've done so. And they're concerned. They have no idea how this is going to work out. But
They're in sync with what you're saying.
Oh, sure. And they agree with all the numbers.
What's going to happen?
The uncertainties. Yeah.
Any other comments from the audience? Hi, Ann.
I'd like to share a fun fact. When my husband and I moved to Chagrin River Road in 1987, the speed limit was 50 miles an hour. And Connie White worked with the state to lower it to 40.
And you're 50.
Just a little fun fact.
Maybe it was 55, right?
Yeah.
Was it?
If it's 40, people are going.
Oh, sure they are. They come past in my house. That motorcycle I heard last night.
You heard that?
Oh, my God.
That's something else.
Drinking my Chardonnay. I almost dropped the damn thing.
May I have a motion to spend to, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for attending. Thank you, audience.
Good meeting, Steve.
Dennis, I have your email too.
Yeah, I like here in the council.
I do.
Oh, yeah, it's headquarters.
Yeah.
You want to plan today or tomorrow?
Yeah.